It's BB and Dealey, we know you have been waiting, so here's another podcast about movies. Burn after watching.
Welcome to the Burn After Watching podcast. I'm Borderland, and this week we are joined by Dan, our new co-host.
Hello, my name's Dan.
Dan will be joining us once a month. Mary will be joining us the other week, the other episode of that month. So we're going to have rotating co-hosts. This week, we are talking about The Fall Guy, the new Ryan Gosling, Emily Blunt film directed by David Leitch, I think. We also watch Atomic Blonde, the 2017 film by David Leitch as well. First time for both of them for me. I think for you too,
Yep.
right?
Yeah, same boat. Like Atomic Blonde, I've seen the poster
Me too.
a lot, where because the contrast of Charlize Theron's like blonde hair to like the gray background.
Yeah.
Like the poster itself never was appealing to me that like I need to go see this.
I agree. Before we start talking about it, though, subscribe. Join us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, every podcast platform that exists. Find us on Instagram. You can find Dan on Instagram. You can find us on Instagram. You can find me on Instagram. Everyone is on Instagram. TikTok. We also have, what else do we have? I think that's it. I think we don't have any other social media. Tread? Are we on Tread? No, I don't think so. All right. I want to ask you, we haven't had this discussion yet. Snack Shack 2024. New comedy just dropped. It's hot. It's hot on the streets. I've watched it. I recommended it to you. And you watched it. And I want to get your feel for it because I described it as like a super bad kind of comedy. But I don't think it's kind of like actually that type of comedy. It's giving me the same vibe. If that movie had dropped on Netflix, it would be like a cult movie that everybody quotes over the summer. But because it dropped like on Paramount or something, nobody's seen it. But I feel like it has the potential of a super bad, but it's not the same type of humor. I don't know if that makes any sense. It's more in terms of like type of film closer to Booksmart, maybe.
Yeah, it's like I think the genre is like coming of age because it's like teenagers and they're experiencing like being adults to a certain degree. Booksmart is a great example, fantastic movie, but Snack Shack, I thought was really good, even though I'm a man in my mid-30s now. It's extremely relatable. It's everything that you thought it would be like to get a taste of adulthood when you're a teenager, and I just thought it was just really well done.
Yeah, I it's rare that like I laugh out loud at film, but that's all it's a bit weird at first because they look like they what 13 or 14 and they're smoking cigarette, gambling at like dogs race, and I was like, what type of it's kind of hitting those Tarantino also kind of writing where it's very like the dialogues are very good and the scenario and the settings are very unique, and there's a kind of aesthetic that is really well done with the Snack Shack, a bit 70s even though it's happening in current time. And the soundtrack is good, and it has kind of that cringe humor from time to time that is kind of remind me of Superbad, but I think it's more, like you said, it's closer to like something like Booksmart, coming of age. Even though I'm not a big fan of Superbad, I know you're more of a fan than me, but I think I seen it too early when I was too young to get it, and then I saw it too old for a second time where I was like, I don't connect to it anymore. I just miss, that specific period you have to be in to, I think, like really connect.
Yeah, I think I saw Superbad when I was like, I think in university, and it just has the right level of raunchy humor that you can appreciate as a younger person. But Snack Shack reminds me a bit of like Adventureland. It's got like like the color tones are like yellow and orangey, it just like it gives off like a 70s-ish vibe even though it's current day time. But I thought like the acting was really good. It's got like the older person who is in college. He's from I Love You Victor or I Love You Sam or something like that. But like,
no idea.
I thought another okay movie that Dan has watched. But yeah, I just thought the characters were really well done. And it just you've got like someone who's extremely extroverted, someone who's a little introverted, and it just they play off each other so well.
Let's talk about the main event. First of all, spoiler warning. We will talk about this movie fully, every detail, every twist. If there's one, we're going to discuss. If you haven't seen those films and you care, just go watch them and come back. Atomic Blonde, 2017. Charlize Theron, James McAvoy, John Goodman. Overall, I really didn't like this. It was a painful watch.
It's tough. Another thing I noticed like pretty early on is I'm pretty sure Charlize Theron's American and she's playing an English person. And the accent was just like awful from jump. Like James McAvoy being an English person and Charlize Theron like pretending to be a British and MI6 person. It just, that was like the first thing outside of the everything was gray tones.
Yeah, that was weird. Like the movie either was like super gray, desaturated, like no color, like very much late 2000, like Sucker Punch, Spartan, like 300, like those kind of film. A lot of like Zack Snyder kind of look like super, or it was like super vibrant neon color. Yeah, like it feels like it didn't know what type of visual style or language it wanted to have. It was all over the place. It wanted to be like super serious too, but also playful. And when you think about like Bullet Train and The Fall Guy, which there's a gap of year between those two, but like it feels like a totally different person did the film.
100%. Maybe this was like the emo phase of the director where they're like, I am very depressed, so this is a reflection of how I feel. But you're right, Bullet Train and Fall Guy were like extremely bright and almost like sporadic, where this felt very monotone and like almost like you're stuck within a box. And I don't know if it really played off well.
No, I think he was going for, I think it's his first big film, so I get it. Like he's maybe still searching. And he did Deadpool 2 and some kind of Fast and Furious film between Atomic Blonde and Bullet Train. So like he had, like this was his first big film, I think, which is like a pretty big first film, like thinking about like the cast and everything. And I think the problem for me is that it's trying too hard to be serious. It's trying to be really have a self-importance and this is very smart and we're gonna drop all those like little knowledge, like little lines from books and it's happening in the middle of the wall falling between West and East Germany. And it's just very, the Tsotsi from Russia and all. It just feels like this is an important film where it's like, no, it's not. It's very much just like a cheesy flick, but it's trying so hard to be important.
Yeah, the whole thing about the list and then saving that guy and that whole scene of like they're doing the protest and obviously James McAvoy is trying to get them killed. And then they do the umbrellas. Like, sure, smart move, but was saving this guy like truly the pinnacle of like saving this operation? It just felt like there was so much happening. And then the fight scene when he gets shot and they're in that building, it's probably the most raw and like almost the fight scene was too much. Like it was almost
too raw.
It was just like I didn't need to see Charlize Theron like get stomped on like 6 times and then her like destroying like 6 dudes with like a pistol at the butt end. It's just too much was going on.
I think for me the big mistake was cutting the music and just hearing them going like and it like the sound design was not great but I agree. I think I didn't mind some of the action, but it like there was no payoff because the story was just not interesting enough. And also it was so predictable. Like at some point, like in the first like maybe 30 minutes, I wrote this line because like in the moment I was watching it and then they quote a book and it says, "It's a double pleasure to deceive the deceiver."
Yes.
And then he's like, oh, what did you learn this? I was like, oh, it was in this book over there. But I was like, all right, like that's basically the whole story, right? Like nobody dropped a line like this so in your face without it being like basically like it's a big metaphor for the film. So I was like, all right, so they're gonna make us believe that one of them is the double agent, and then deceive the deceiver means that person, the other person, is the real agent, double agent, and it's trying to deceive the person that is trying to deceive, right? Because I think James McAvoy is supposed to us look like he's the double agent. It's like obviously the film wants us to believe it's him. It's too obvious, so then it's like, well, it's definitely not him then. And then for obviously it's her. I mean, to me, it was like so obvious. And then like, you know, deceive the deceiver. So I was like, okay, so she's gonna try to make it feel like even though it's her and we think it's the movie want us to think it's him, we're gonna suspect her, but she's gonna deceive the deceiver, so she's gonna make people believe it's him. And I was like first of all, I know what's coming, but also it's so complicated for no reason. And the whole reason to kill the guy is because he memorized the list. Mm-hmm. But who cares? Like, you also have the list in the watch or whatever. Like,
like,
who cares if he
to
dies?
be honest,
Like,
I remember that line being dropped like several times, but I didn't catch him. Like, I didn't catch it early on. I was like, James McAvoy's the evil guy. I didn't catch that like until the very end when Charlize Theron's in red and in Russia. I was like, no. I was fooled. So like maybe maybe the director like did a good job, because like there were so many unnecessary scenes that it didn't make sense. Like the sex scene between Charlize Theron and the French agent. I was like, why is this in here?
So dumb.
I was like, I thought that the French agent was trying to kill Charlize Theron because she was also a double agent, and I was like, they're just really murking the picture. Like, I get it. Like, you're trying to confuse the viewer as like whose double agent is, but it was so many pieces of the pie, and because of that, I think I was thrown off, thinking like they want us as the viewers to know that James McAvoy like is the double agent. So good on you for catching it.
I just felt it was too obvious for it to be true. I mean, it could have been, but then I was like, like, what's the point? Like, it feels like within the first hours, you should suspect him, right? And then I was like, well, then like the whole intrigue of who's the double agent is done. But I still didn't understand the John Goodman. So is my understanding that technically she's a triple agent because she worked for the MI6, which is British. Yeah. Then once it's revealed that she's a double agent, it seems like she's a double agent with the Russian. Yeah. But then when she give the list to Russian, and then they're like, we're going to kill you now, please, like, like behave or whatever. Then she killed them, and she says something like, every info you gave me changed the world. Every info I gave you changed nothing. Like, whatever. Like, it's just a like, I played you. And she goes to John Goodman in the plane, and John Goodman is American. So was she a triple agent where she was also fooling, like she was working for the American to kill McAvoy, who's British. Mm-hmm. So she was a triple agent. She worked or like MI6 knew that she also worked for the American, and it's still just a double agent thing. I was very confused at the end with that part.
That was very confusing. Also, the nicknames were just terrible. So, like, James McAvoy was Percival. And then the guy that had the list. But the guy who had the list, his nickname was Spyglass. Like, that's... Yeah. Like, that was silly. But to your point, I think it's either she's a triple agent or MI6 was working with the FBI. I just don't... You know, like in the interrogation scene, there's like the glass and there's like Mr. Cooper or whatever. Is he a director of the FBI or was he a director of MI6?
Goodman?
No, there's like Goodman, that like small dude who's actually from the Avengers. He's something else. On the glass wall, there's a dude behind it.
That's MI6, yeah.
That's
all
MI6.
Of those, all MI6. John Goodman is the only one that represents the American.
Right.
I think.
Yeah, you're right. So
also wait, at the beginning, which I really wait, okay, so many things. So at the beginning, also when she learned that someone died, she looked at a photo of someone she'd take her bath in ice, and then she opened her drawers, and there's a photo of someone. And then at first I was like, okay, it looked like the guy that just died, like within the first minute, right? So then are we to believe that that's her like husband, or like they like
Lover.
together? Because this never comes back.
It comes within the first like 15 minutes because that guy dies. My initial thought in that opening scene was like, this town is like footloose. You just can't have fun. But besides that point, I think this was like a secret lover, because he is integral to this mission because he was working with James McAvoy. He gets killed. And she's coming into this mission like fresh, like I don't know anything. But she was sleeping with potentially this person.
But like it never comes back in the sense that like I thought this would be like an emotional driver for her to like, go above and beyond because her lover was killed. But like it never comes back. Like they never mention it again.
Yeah, it's a weird tidbit, right? Because she was hired for her skills, but she gets like, either it's James McAvoy leaking this information, but she gets caught like 5 minutes within arriving to the location.
Yeah, which I guess yeah, okay, wait. So that's also weird because at first you think, well, there's a double agent, and that double agent sold her the fact that she was arriving, but she's the double agent. So she set this up where she would get picked up by a Russian because she's the double agent. She set this up to put Percival to give that, but she killed him. She killed the people in the car. So she killed people that was on her side just to make Percival believe that she was set up by Percival. Once it's happening, it makes sense. But once you start getting the information and you look back, it doesn't make sense. Like there's a bunch of things that only make sense based on the information you have, but not the information that is true.
Yeah, because the Russian side are essentially sacrificing the lives of like 4 henchmen, saying like, you're going to go in this car. We know we're going to hit this car. You're going to die.
Or she's so double agent that like some of the Russian don't know that she worked for them.
Potentially, because she's also, you remember when she's driving in that car and she randomly stops with the guy who has a list and they get hit by another car? That other car is a Russian car.
Yeah. There's a bunch of things that doesn't make sense. If she was a triple agent or whatever, like, it doesn't make sense. Who she's trying to fool? She's trying to fool Percival because she want him to be the double agent so she have less people after her. But who's chasing after her? Because the American know she's the double agent. Yeah. So then it's just MI6 that doesn't know? Because the Russian wouldn't know.
Right, because McAvoy is working with FBI and MI6.
Yeah.
So maybe
but he's not a double agent because those two are friends, technically.
Right, but then he tries to score with the Russians saying, like, I have the list. That, like, whole scene where he's in that alleyway and he's trying to share information.
I thought that was a setup to try to... I thought it was, like, just to... I think that was just a setup. He was trying to, like, get... I don't know if he was actually trying to, like, get something out of it or he wanted to, like, get them caught. I don't know. The story doesn't make sense the more you kind of, like, look at things. Which is not a good thing.
It's something you can only watch once because your second experience, you're like, broken. Like, none of these things work together as one.
Even if the story made sense. I mean, like, the movie, like, look terrible most of the time. Like, the desaturated look, I know it's, like, a product of its time. I mean, 2017, it was probably at the end of, like, let's make everything look super gray and serious. Like, almost like the first Man of Steel, even. Which is, again, it's Zack Snyder again. So I assume this guy just loves Zack Snyder. Also, the music.
Whew, so much.
Every 5 second a track.
It's truly like you're listening to an ad for like Apple Music. It was just like constant. You're walking, music. You're like eating, music. James McAvoy like smashes like a whiskey bottle, music.
And sometimes it was like for like 3 seconds and then the song was gone. It was like just a transition thing, but they play an entire song. I was like, why though? Like, why so much music? It felt like amateur, like, oh, let's just throw things. Like every music we can. And maybe there was meaning in like the song they picked, but it felt like a lot of time it was just like, oh, we want that aesthetic from the 80s, right? Like late 70s German music, right? And I don't know. And there was also a bunch of like weird, the Russian just like interrogating breakdancer, and it was like, dance now. And the guy danced like 1 second, and then nothing comes out of it. Like they don't get any information from those guys. Like nothing changed if this scene is not there. What's the point?
I'm telling you, like my original idea that this town is Footloose, the Footloose town, or the town in Footloose, is exactly like, because that breakdancing scene, it's just like, if you see this person, you must stop them because they're a traitor, and he beats that dude with a skateboard. So it's like, you can't have fun. If you dance, you die. If you do this, you die. So it just seems like you just can't have fun. And like Bill Skarsgård, he's like the other lead. He is essentially running this network. So if he is running this network,
who does he play?
He plays like James McAvoy introduces Charlize Theron to Bill Skarsgård, who has like a network of like hackers or something like that.
He's on the Russian side. Or no? Yeah, he's on the Russian side. I don't think it's James McAvoy. It's the watch dude that is like, here's my contact.
Yeah, very confusing. But it was just I don't understand why they killed that dude. They got no information from them, and it was just like a warning. Like, if you do this, you'll die like this guy, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it was just really like confusing. And I mean, for me, I end up giving it a 2 out of 5. And I would burn this. I think I don't see any reason. Like, some fight scenes are okay, but like, don't waste your time. And it's so long too. It's like 2 hours and a half. It doesn't need to be. I know it's 2 hours. It feels like 2 hours and a half. That's why.
Yeah, it felt like 3 for me. So it was like an instant burn.
Yeah, big burn. Yeah, that's gonna be a burn. So you've seen Bullet Train.
Yeah,
and you liked it a lot, right?
I loved it.
I liked it enough. I really like the Brad Pitt character, and I like the two henchmen. But some of them more like, but there's some of the cookie kind of like the Russian bad girl who's like a kid, a teenager, like this. And the whole ending, like the last 10, 15 minutes is so silly. Like that really didn't help. But I would say it's better than Atomic Blonde for sure. Like it's easily for me a 3. And going into The Fall Guy, that's all I knew. But Bullet Train, I think, came out and I didn't even realize it was coming out. I heard a good word about it, so I watched it and I liked it enough.
Yeah, there's I saw it in theaters and I had like a hoot. There's a line where he says hurt people, and there's people in front of me, they're like, whoa, that's the best saying ever. So maybe the theater experience raised it, but I thought the characters were really like well drawn out. Like it was a great character building. Those two guys, I think it was like Tangerine and Clementine or something like that, or Lemon. Like they grew up together. They're both like hit people, and there's like the Japanese like mob boss who's trying to like avenge his like son. Like there was just a lot of like funky characters in there, and Brad Pitt playing a bit of aloof was, I thought, really funny.
I like that a lot. Like for me, it's all the side character outside of those 3 main like henchmen, where like the Bad Bunny character I didn't care for, the Asian girl I didn't care for, the Russian girl I didn't care for. I feel like there was a lot of like secondary character that were just okay. The whole Thomas the Train, and so going into The Fall Guy, that's my kind of similar issue with it, where they have a joke, it's a good joke. Like the Thomas the Train, it's a good joke, and then they keep doing it, and they stretching how good the joke is, and eventually it's like, okay, it's not a good joke anymore. You like burned it to the ground. You've like used it way too much, and it's like at this point, it's just like, all right, like move on. Like it feels like you have a good joke, and then you don't want to let it go. And I feel like The Fall Guy is kind of a similar thing for me. I liked it better than The Fall Guy is my favorite of those three.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still not great for me.
Yeah, like I think there's to the point of like beating a dead horse of a joke. There's like a 5-minute clip where Ryan Gosling is being hit against like that stone wall on fire.
Exactly what I was thinking about.
Really hammering it home, and I was like, man, like I get it. He did a bad thing. She is trying to get revenge and teach a lesson, but like it's too much. It was so drawn out.
Yeah. The bit with the megaphone is exactly what I was thinking about when I was telling you about like the bit with the Thomas the Train. It's like you have a good idea. It's funny once, it's funny twice. Then the megaphone thing, all right, like it's funny. No, here we heard like all this is funny, and then it's like 4 minutes too long. Where like, all right, even like the whole conversation in the car, where at some point he's listening to I think Taylor Swift, and he starts crying, and then she comes in, and then I guess like it's this whole like, oh no, like Ryan Gosling is crying, it's embarrassing, kind of like that's the joke, that's the entire joke.
Yeah.
And they kept it going for so long, and even when she leave the car, they kind of do it again. They replay the song, and he start crying again, and it's like, dude, like you can't do the same joke like 4 times in like 3 minutes.
I think the Taylor Swift thing was maybe like an attention grab because Taylor Swift's like super hot right now, but like.
And Soul, it's super hot right now.
But like there's like the other bit where he gets like he goes to that club and they spike his drink, and then he keeps seeing the unicorn. Like, to me that was just like, you see the unicorn once, it's funny. You see it twice, it's like it's still funny, but you see it several times in that same segment, and I was like, I feel like they left so much on the table because I feel like a writer was really pushing down, like, these guys are gonna freaking love this unicorn. They're gonna love like being thrown at a wall for like 6-7 times. Like, it was one person pushing it.
Yeah, and I think like I was really excited. I think, to be honest, if Emily Blunt and Ryan Gosling weren't in this film, I think it would probably be. I mean, it didn't do that well, but like it would be probably a lot worse. Like they're coming out from Barbie and Oppenheimer, right?
Yeah.
They and I can't believe they didn't capitalize on that. The Oscar did it, where like the whole rivalry between Barbie and Oppenheimer, and they brought Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt on the stage, and they had a little banter. How is this not part of the marketing of The Fall Guy? Like such a missed opportunity. But even above that, like, if it was not from those two people, it's kind of like the Bullet Train. If you don't have Brad Pitt, it's like, what do you really have? Like, is it closer to Atomic Blonde at that point? Because, like, I was excited for Fall Guy, but then I kind of, like, pulled back a bit. And I was like, wait, I don't really like... I like Bullet Train, but, like, it's fine. I haven't seen any of this film. Like, is it just because Ryan Gosling is in this that I'm excited? And it's kind of, like, what it came down to. Ryan Gosling is super charming in this. And, like, without him... Emily Blunt is good, but like I don't think she's carrying most of the film. I think if you don't have Gosling, if you put any other actor, maybe not Eddie, but like just an average actor, I think like you don't have a good film.
So like let's play this hypothetical game.
Right.
If not Gosling, it's bust. Who is a replacement actor that you could put in and still be salvageable? Like, could you put in a Reynolds? Could you put in like an Aaron
really
Tyler
don't like
Johnson?
Reynolds. No. I really don't. Ryan Reynolds it's kind of like Chris Pratt. He's too much everywhere.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think Hollywood would put Ryan Reynolds, would put Ryan Gosling, or would put, what's the third guy you just said?
Aaron Tyler Johnson. He was like Lemon or the
Pear. Oh no, I don't
think
think he's big enough. But he's in this movie. He played a superstar, right?
Yeah.
So, Chris Pratt. I think Hollywood would say you could put those three people. It's basically putting the same. I think Ryan Gosling is slightly above those two. Chris Pratt is the lowest. Ryan Reynolds is second, and then Gosling is at the top. I think like Pedro Pascal could have been. Again, we are burning him right now. He's in everything, and now he's going to be in a Marvel film. So now for sure he's burned. Like for me, Chris Pratt is the same thing. Like I like Chris Pratt, but there's a point of non-return where he's saying yes to everything. Like he's in Jurassic World, huge franchise. All right, he's
Great.
in Guardian of the Galaxy, huge franchise. He's Mario brother. He's Garfield. There's like how many like. All right, like you need to take a break. Like at some point, an actor should recognize that like he's in too many movies and he's in too many big movies. And I understand that's not the logical thing to do, but like Chris Pratt, I can't stand him anymore. And also, he's always Ryan Reynolds, the same thing. He's always the same characters. Like now that Deadpool is popular, Ryan Reynolds is basically Deadpool in every film. Sarcastic, kind of offhand, a bit weird. Like it's really like that's in like meta a little bit. That's kind of like his thing now. Almost every role is exactly that.
Yeah, Pratt's the lovable idiot, right? He was Andy Dwyer in Parks and Rec, but he's the lovable idiot in Guardians of the Galaxy. I assume Garfield because Garfield is a lovable idiot. But the first name that came to mind that could work, but the star power is almost too big, is Bradley Cooper.
I guess he has that. So I would say Bradley Cooper like 5 years ago. Yes. Yeah. Because like that charming but lovable. Yes. I think now he's too serious. Like his last few films, there's a tint of pretentious on him that I don't think would work. It would feel like, try to picture him trying to flirt with Emily Blunt. Like those kind of like, even like the Taylor Swift song and like the more silly moment that Ryan Gosling can really pull off. I don't think Cooper could do. Not the same way that like even Chris Pratt. I think Ryan Reynolds would be the closest thing to like having a similar performance that I can think of.
Because you want funny, charming, but you also need a body to make it look like you're actually an action hero. So I would have loved in an alternative universe Michael Cera doing this because he has the very funny, he's like quick wit. He doesn't have the body. He is nowhere close. So like maybe
it doesn't work.
Like Evans could work. Chris Evans, even though he's also saturated.
Is that who's the guy that played Thor?
Chris Hemsworth.
I think he could have done it.
I think he could have done it too.
Because of like, I haven't seen any of the Thor movie, but I know that the fourth one or the third one, whatever the last one is a lot more comical. Yeah. And I feel like even his Mad Max has a little bit of that comical thing. Okay, so that's, I mean, I think Ryan Gosling was the best choice.
Yeah.
I think the issues is not him. Like, he's saving the movie.
It's like the movie itself is like not something that's like serious. It's extremely predictable. Like the side characters aren't that fun. Like there was a short introduction of, I think her name's Stephanie Sue or something. She was in Everywhere, Everything, All at Once. She was the daughter, but she plays the assistant to Aaron Tyler Johnson's character, and she had 5 minutes. But I just think but the other side characters. No, she was just serious. And then there's the stuntman coordinator.
He's good. That's the same guy with Thomas the Train.
Was it? I think they're different people.
I think it's the same people because I think it's like you have the same gang basically except Brad Pitt. You have a lot of the people from Bullet Trains are in this film.
I'm pretty sure the guy who plays the stunt coordinator, you're not going to get this reference, but in Black Panther, his name's like, I think it's like M'Baku. He's like this. He's a much taller guy because the guy who's in Bullet Train is also in Atlanta as like the rapper.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
you're right. That's the guy from Avenger or something.
Yeah. And the guy in Bullet Train is also. You're not gonna get this reference either, but he's also in a terrible Marvel movie with like Angelina Jolie and a bunch of other people. But
Eternal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Terrible, but he's also in that one.
I thought Eternal was good. Which one is good? What's the one? Shang-Chi with
That's
Simu.
Good.
That's a good one, apparently.
It's fairly good. It's fairly good.
Okay.
Toronto represents.
I have a list on the box of all the Marvel movie in order, and I was thinking eventually I should really watch them just so I can at least hate them with knowledge. But it's a long endeavor. I have a bunch of those projects, but eventually I'm gonna. It's like Star Wars. I've never seen most of the Star Wars. Most of them. Yeah. I've seen the bad one actually because when I grew up, the one going on TV were the one that people hate. The with Anakin Skywalker with the bowl cut.
Yeah, the Star Wars like 1. I don't know what
1,
the
2,
name is, but
3, I guess.
1 to
sequels
3.
or whatever. Well,
yeah,
no, the prequel, whatever. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, okay. So wait. So okay. So yes. First of all, too long. The film is way too long.
Yeah.
It also
easily
had
could have
like
been 90.
2 or 3 ending. It feels like I was like, oh, okay, the movie is wrapping up. Once Ryan Gosling saved himself, the boat chase, and then that ties up because at some point he's bragging to I guess the girlfriend of the actor that he drove a boat through a ring of fire with his ends in his back, and at the end, he's actually ends in his back, and he do it, and that's how you get the idea, whatever. And then so I was like, okay, that's it, that's the end. But then no, the movie keeps going, and then like there's a whole like, oh, we need to catch him admitting that he killed people, and then there's a whole like the movie need to wrap up as well. And even when that is done, then they do like also the movie was really popular, and then there's a cameo by Jason Momoa on top of that. It's like the movie kept on going forever.
Yeah, because it felt like a movie within. Obviously, it was a movie within a movie because they're filming.
Yeah,
but it was them like almost going too meta. They were like going 3 layers deep in Inception. It was just like too much happening because it was like they caught the guy. They did this whole stunt scene to make Aaron Tyler Johnson say it, and then it makes you think that okay, maybe Ryan Gosling is now going to be the star of the movie, and it's like, oh wait, now it's Jason Momoa.
Yeah, it felt such like a lost opportunity to have like a big moment. I guess they wanted to make the point that like stuntsmen aren't the people in front, and that's how it's supposed to be, I guess. But I did think the music in this one was a lot better. They use I Was Made for Loving You by Kiss, but they just remix it in a bunch of different way. They change the tempo and they use it basically as a soundtrack. That was cool. I really liked that. There was a lot of good bits, right? I know you pointed out all the poster jokes, the Post-it joke.
Yeah, there was
why is
Asian orange
chicken? No, what is? Wait, that's it.
Why is Chinese chicken orange?
Orange. Yeah, why is Chinese? Yeah, that's it.
And then they reference it in the movie, and there's another sticky that says like is it Momoa or Momoa or something? Like they reference Jason Momoa in one of those stickies. So I thought that was like a fun.
That was good.
Like play, I like that. You know.
I like that. I really liked. There's a scene. So because it's a movie within a movie, there's a lot of cool thing that they do where they are talking about the movie they're making, and it's also commenting on the movie you're watching at the same time. The best part for me is when she says, "What do you think about having kind of like a side by side kind of split?" And then the movie does that, and it does it in a very cool way. Like it's super symmetrical. It's like the technical aspect is really cool, and that was one time that I was like, okay, that's well done. But then there's a bunch of time that also the filmmaking of the actual film is just sloppy. I felt like the karaoke scene edited in between a chase scene, and then they tried to like jump back and forth between like conversation that are super quiet and like people singing to like a huge action scene. Kept taking like all the momentum of the chase scene away. For me, it didn't pay off at all. Like the chase scene felt like almost it kept cutting away to like show me people talking in a bar.
Yeah, because I think, to my understanding, the point of that scene was to show that to Emily Blunt that Ryan Gosling character is someone that she can't rely on, because that's the whole like reason of like this like angst towards him. But it did feel weird because it's I guess to Gosling's character, he's always just short of like winning the girl or winning the race, and that's kind of like where I saw it. Like he was always just falling just short. For me, it made sense that he didn't make it to karaoke in time to sing with Emily Blunt.
That's fine. It's just it felt like it was messy to just do like she's singing a slow song, and then we cut to like a high pace, high energy chase scene, and then we cut to a slow song again. If it was and at some point they put the slow song over the car chase, and I was like, that doesn't work at all. It just felt like they tried too hard to make it work, and for me it didn't work. And I also think that it got really obsessed with the movie within the movie. And
Yeah.
like there's some scenes that are cool, but like for example, when they're in front of the opera house in Sydney and they show you like them filming a combat scene, and it's like, oh, I'll just put the face of the actor on you, and because I have you, I can do whatever I want. It was really long and it was kind of sloppy, and like the movie they're making is kind of a Dune / Mad Max kind of like film. Even the music in the film that they're making is like Dune, kind of like but I just felt like I know it's supposed to be like behind the scene, but it just felt like it looks cheap a bit for like the film you're watching itself. Watching the film they're making look that cheap, make the film it visually look cheap, and then it makes The Fall Guy, even though it's well done as a film as a whole, look cheap by default because they're showing a bunch of cheap images. To me, it felt like it also created a clash of style because the film within the film had a different visual style than the film itself. So now you have like two contrasts that are like just not well blend in almost.
Yeah, I think like most of the scenes that you see as a viewer of the movie they're filming are all action scenes, right? So to me, it's like obviously this whole thing is indirectly an homage to stunt people. Yeah. So to me, it's just like it's once again going back to beating a joke too much, like a dead horse. We know that stunt people are good. We know they're integral to the movie. It'd be interesting to see like other parts of the movie they're filming that aren't action.
Yeah, I get what you mean. Okay, so I love that it's an homage to stuntmen, and I love like the little joke, like, oh, did you ever win an Oscar for that? It was like, no, they don't give Oscar for stunt people. Like those kind of thing I really liked. To be honest, and I don't know if this is me, just I grew up watching Jackie Chan film. I was not impressed with any of stunt work. It's like, it's cool action, but I've seen all of this before. The boat ride, all of this. Like, to me, nothing was like, holy fucking shit. Like, when I watched Jackie Chan go through walls or glass panel, fall from like 10th floor up, goes under car, even if it didn't do it for real, there's this like this visceral, like, holy shit. And maybe like even Mission Impossible.
Like, I was just going to say.
I haven't seen them all. Like, I've seen Fallout, I think. One of the, like, maybe the fifth one. And I remember the action I was like, holy. And even James Bond, like the latest James Bond, like the action scene, I was like, okay, this is cool. Like, oh my God. I didn't have those moments. I felt like it's competent, but in terms of spectacle, like I feel like I've seen this in so many films now, like the type of action they show us, that I'm not impressed anymore by this kind of stuff. It's too basic.
Yeah, I think that's a very fun point, because if this movie is an homage to some people, it should have wowed us. It fell short. It was just like a car scene. I'm sure it's hard to get flipped over in a car and to crash into things, but like Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible, like he was like scaling outside of like a building or jumping out of the plane. Like those are things that you're like, that's sick. Like that's amazing. Yeah. But this is just like, it's Ryan Gosling hitting a rock like 6 times, you know?
And you had the Opera House, like you had Sydney. Why did you do something on top of the Opera House? Like the same way Tom Cruise did something on top of the Burj Khalifa, whatever, right? In Dubai. Like, to me, also, like, being able to, like, connect to, like, a real thing that I know the size first makes it more impressive. Also, I feel like obviously Mission Impossible has CGI, but the CGI is so good, I don't think about it. This movie, I could see the CGI in those action scenes, and it takes away from, like, even though it might be real people doing real stunt, it feels a bit fake. And then I'm like, well, this takes away a bit of the enjoyment. But overall, I just feel like John Cena, like would do movie like 12 rounds, and like those kind of like small, like those small, Bruce Willis did millions of those small action movie that nobody knows about, that everybody have forgot if they've seen them, like super average. But I feel like all those movies have those kind of, like, maybe not as well done, but they have those kind of like the boat chase, the car chase, and then like a few fights in the bar in a nightclub. Like, what was the most impressive? At the end, there's like the whole Mad Max in the movie scene with the helicopter. But even the helicopter thing, it's like, big deal. He jumped from the helicopter. I sound like an asshole, but it's like I've seen all of this. Like anybody that's seen a couple film, especially like big blockbuster, it's like you've seen all of that. Like not like even 21 Jump Street and 22 Jump Street did the helicopter thing, and I feel like 22 Jump Street had more like moment of action. And I was like, holy shit, man, they're really going out. Maybe it's because the expectation was that this is a comedy, but it's called The Fall Guy. It's about stuntsmen. I was expecting like Jackie Chan level shit.
Yeah, I'm trying to think back to like the fun action scenes. There's one where in that chase scene, like Ryan Gosling is holding on like a shovel or something, and he's like grinding on the like the highway with like a door. That was almost like Back to the Future, where Marty McFly broke a scooter and turned it into a skateboard, and he's like pulling on the back of a car. It was very, very basic, not fun, like not sexy. Like I want Gosling to like that scene where he breaks his back by falling out. Like seeing that whole clip would have been very impressive.
Yeah, oh yeah. The opening scene, you mean?
Yeah, that would have been a wow factor.
Yeah, and I like that they put the not a blooper, but like the behind the scene at the end, right during the credit. That's cool because it really kind of gets you to like get a feel for like all the work. But it just felt a bit too manufactured for me to like buy in on they actually putting their life in danger, even if they are. And I think that one thing that is kind of like getting clear to me is that because they're making a film within the film, and the film that they're making, you see the cable, you see the fire, and then the extinguisher, you see the fake behind the action, right? They show it to you how it's all artificial. Then it makes you kind of like think about, well, then the movie that I'm watching itself is also made the same way. It's like a movie about a magician that have a movie within it that is a magician showing you how he does a trick. By default, you're devaluing the actual action I'm getting because you're showing me the fake action too. It just feels like it's so confused. It's kind of like the bullet train and the atomic blonde thing to me. It comes back to, it has an idea. It's not sometimes it's a good idea, sometimes it's a bad idea. But the execution is very much, let's just do cool thing independently and let's not think about the overall concept. It's not necessarily coherent or like overall, does everything fit together very well? Did anybody even think about like, wait, we're showing like fake action there and we want them to buy this good action there? Like, do we think that we are, confusing the viewer? Like, it feels like it was not thought through. It's like, let's do cool stuff. It's kind of like the script is like, let's do cool stuff. And then like just a bunch of cool stuff in a row.
Yeah. It's true. Like the only like connectivity is to me is Gosling as a character and his growth of like him being maybe like too cocky in the beginning somehow, and then he found himself after the injury, and the connections with all the sticky notes. But outside of that, this was just a rom-com to me. It was like less about the action. This is just about a lost puppy trying to find like his loved one, like his soulmate. Like the action, to your point, is just like he's a fall guy because he's falling on his own sword. But it's not like this is like The Rock fighting John Cena on top of a skyscraper, But
it's also the fall guy because he's set up as the fall guy for the murder.
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, right. And I think it's based on a TV show from the 80s. This movie or whatever. I read that. I assume it's true. But it just, I don't know if it actually kind of retell a story from the TV show or anything. Or it's just a name that they picked up and that's it. It felt a bit basic. I mean, it is a big summer blockbuster. It's trying to appeal to as much people as possible. But I think like when you look at the type of film that I think actually, like King Kong, Godzilla kind of film, like are very popular. But I guess for my taste, I want something more. I want something to chew on. And I guess this director overall, right now, it's a bit too surface level. Where like something like, I'm trying to think about something that Mission Impossible, the few film I've seen that are recent, or like even the James Bond film, like Casino Royale, Skyfall, like I will watch that because I feel like there's a little bit more meat on the bone.
Right.
And the more I'm thinking about Fall Guy. So I give it a 3.5 when I was coming out of the theater. I was kind of like, is it a 4? Is it a 3.5? And I was like, I think it's going to be a 3.5. And then I actually changed it to a 3 last week because the more I think about it, all I remember is the bad stuff. Like, all I remember is the stuff I didn't like. I feel like I can't remember much except Ryan Gosling was funny from time to time and a few action scenes. I feel like for an hour, like a 2.5-hour film, there's not a lot that I'm like, oh man, like I'm not thinking back like, oh man, that was really cool, that scene. It's like, nah, I don't think about, like I totally forgot the film. I was, even before starting the podcast, I was like, do I even remember enough to talk about the film?
There's like, what I can remember is the murder of like blaming Gosling was very predictable because like when the agent of Aaron Tyler Johnson brought him out saying that the director really wants you, he gets there, director has no idea that he was coming. I was like, this is a setup. So like that,
I didn't get that. I'm surprised I didn't get that at all. I thought that's just what they use for setting up the story.
For you catching the double agent in Atomic Blonde from that one quote, it makes you think that you're an expert. But I thought like that was like it was fun, I guess, for the viewers to try to be, staying along this mystery. But there was a lot to be desired for. I think they could have taken it a layer deeper or like maybe push really hard into like the murder mystery part. But it just, this whole thing for 2.5 hours is Gosling getting back with Blunt. That's all it seemed like.
Yeah, it seems a bit unfocused, and it's like I don't know. It doesn't take enough of the story, and then when it does focus on that, they stretch the joke so much that I'm like, well, if it's not good as a romantic comedy, and I don't love it personally as a stunt kind of like spectacle, and as an action movie, it's fine, but and then it's like then what it is like it's just too many things. Like it need to focus on something a bit more, and I think that it really focused on Ryan Gosling. It feels like. I wonder if they recut the film once they saw Barbie. I mean, the film was probably not finished cut, like editing. But I wonder if they had like a lot of extra material of Gosling and they were like, man, Barbie is really big. Let's add more Gosling into the film to really get people like excited because we have like this duo that like is like just so popular right now. I wonder if they changed their approach based on the success of Barbie.
Potentially, like even with like Blunt and Oppenheimer, she wasn't a main character, so it makes sense that she's playing second fiddle to Gosling.
Yeah, I just feel like a lot of it could have been cut, like all the Gosling stuff, but I don't know. I feel like it's forgettable a bit, and like I said, like I give it a 3 out of 5. Thinking about it now, it's like it's probably the appropriate thing. I don't think I would ever rewatch it, except if it's like. If it's on, I wouldn't be like, turn this off.
Totally.
But I don't think I would intentionally put this on.
It's like a good background elevator music type of movie. You're doing something around the house, you can put it on. And there's like some funny scenes that you can laugh at. But yeah, it's not something I'd like rewatch, let's say in like the next 2 years.
What would you give it out of 5, Dan?
I originally gave it 4, but I'm going to stick with the 4. 4 out of 5 stars.
4 out of 5 star. Awesome. 3 out of 5. So for me, I assume it's a save for you.
It's a save for me.
I think I'm going to burn it. I can't recommend this in good conscience if I wouldn't rewatch it myself. So I think I'm going to burn it. It's not like worst movie of the year situation, obviously. It's just very mid. And like, it's not even going to crack my top 10 or top 15. It wouldn't. Like, I don't even have a top 5 yet, but like it's for sure not getting close to like a top 10 even. Yeah. It feels like at the end of the summer season, we're going to be like, Fall Guy, what? Like, I feel like nobody's going to be talking about it anymore. I don't know. Anyway, it's me. Do you have anything else to talk about Fall Guy?
No, that's great, man.
Everyone, thank you for joining. Subscribe. Find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all the places. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Take care.